believe that you're a cheater, and I believe that you
needs these guys. Jake needs Tyson and needs all these other people, because that you know, everybody's going to tune in to hope that Mike Tyson knocks him out.
Right.
They're not tuning in because they think Jake Paul's a great fighter and they want to see him compete.
Dana White just dismantled the entire idea of a Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul boxing match. And honestly, it's hard to argue with him. Jake Paul has never been about the blood, sweat, and bruises of real boxing. From the start, his focus was on chasing fame and stacks of cash, not from landing knockouts, but by creating viral content for YouTube and milking that for all it's worth.
And that thing that you came out with today, nobody on earth thinks that you really wrote that. You're too stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the stare down, the guy that stands...
Tyson's wild promos and dramatic face-off clips weren't just side projects. They were the main event. The man knows how to ride the hype train straight to the bank. And it's true what they say, once a YouTuber, always a YouTuber. Dana White didn't just call Jake out for chasing fame. He also exposed a ton of shady dealings, making it feel like a courtroom drama. By the end, even I had more reasons to dislike Jake Paul than I ever thought possible.
Stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the stare down, the guy that's standing in the middle with the warlock nose and the big warlock wart on his face, apparently that's his manager. And that guy used to be an accountant for me. And let's just say this, he no longer works for me, and I think he's a scumbag.
In Dana White's signature no-nonsense style, he's absolutely obliterating Jake Paul, labeling him one of the biggest frauds to ever enter the fight world. Dana doesn't toss insults lightly, though. He's accusing Jake of using steroids and completely dismissing his entire boxing career as a series of gimmicky matchups designed for spectacle, not real competition.
I didn't even know the guy was fighting. When Jake Paul lost to Fury, I haven't really paid attention to Jake Paul.
I have love for Jake too.
Before anyone dismisses Dana's words, remember this is the guy who transformed the UFC from a backyard brawl into a global multi-billion-dollar empire. His fight game knowledge is undeniable. When Dana speaks, even the loudest skeptics have to sit down and listen because he knows exactly what he's talking about.
You think that you can do it better than we do. You know, we're doing this whole thing wrong. You could treat the fighters better than we do. Knock yourself out. Go start your own business. It's easy to do. Get the Warlock on it. The Warlock can get it started for you. What you and the Warlock should be focused on is your business.
But Dana's fury isn't just some personal vendetta against Jake. It's much deeper. He sees Jake as someone who's disgracing the very sport he built, cheapening boxing into a spectacle for clicks and cash. To twist the knife even further, Dana turns his attention to Jake's manager, sarcastically dubbing him the Warlock. Apparently, this guy used to be an accountant for the UFC but couldn't hack it. Now, in Dana's words, he's been reduced to Jake Paul's lackey. Dana paints the Warlock as a cautionary tale, a former number cruncher now desperately clinging to relevance by attaching himself to Jake's social media circus. The whole thing reeks of mockery, with Dana making sure to highlight just how far this so-called Warlock has fallen from any semblance of respectability.
He fights older people that are smaller. It's all the same.
If you think Dana's trash talk stops there, think again. He cranks it up in true fight promoter fashion, challenging Jake Paul in a way that goes far beyond words. Dana demands a steroid testing showdown, claiming Jake's biceps aren't exactly the result of hard work and protein shakes. He wants random drug tests for Jake, and to prove his own credibility, Dana offers a wild deal. He'll undergo random cocaine testing for 10 years. 10 years of testing, all to show that he's clean. Talk about raising the stakes.
I'm ready to roll, buddy. I don't use cocaine. Do you use steroids? Let's do this, Jake.
This whole steroid versus cocaine drama has turned into a spectacle bigger than some actual fights, sparking a media frenzy with headlines everywhere and social media blowing up. Suddenly, the Tyson versus Jake Paul matchup isn't just about who's getting knocked out in the ring. It's dripping with controversy. Accusations are flying, egos are clashing like heavyweights, and Dana's challenge isn't just spicy trash talk. It's a battle cry demanding Jake Paul prove he's not all smoke and mirrors. The hype has evolved from punch predictions to wild steroid allegations, making this showdown way more explosive than anyone expected.
Jake, you never responded to the challenge. You publicly stated that I use cocaine. I do not. So I told you you could randomly cocaine test me for the next 10 years. I believe that you're a cheater, and I believe that you use steroids. So I want to randomly steroid test.
Jake Paul has never been one to shy away from a heated debate, especially when it involves stirring up drama. Now, he's fully leaning into the fighter pay crusade, positioning himself as the noble warrior standing up for underpaid MMA athletes. The guy who made his name pulling pranks and creating chaos on YouTube is now acting like the Robin Hood of the fight world. He loves to throw out numbers that grab attention. $600,000, he claims, is what top-tier UFC heavyweights make on average. Then, he hits with a comparison. $30 million, the jaw-dropping payday for heavyweight boxing champs. According to Jake, it's a massive injustice, and naturally, he casts himself as the only hero brave enough to call it out. But let's be real, Dana White isn't buying any of it. Dana comes in hot with sarcasm so sharp, it's like blades. He openly scoffs at Jake's supposed understanding of fighter pay and the business behind it. Watching Dana dismiss Jake's noble cause is almost comical, as if Jake's act of standing up for fighters is more of a performance than a real effort to spark change.
Do you think he's not paying fighters fairly?
It's all greed and it's all going to fill Dana White's pocket.
Dana White blasted Jake Paul for accusing him of using cocaine. And let's be real, Dana, the mastermind behind UFC's rise to a global powerhouse, isn't about to listen to a YouTuber lecture him on finances. Dana lays it out for Jake, telling him that if he truly thinks he's so clever, he should stop complaining and start his own MMA organization. Then, with that signature sarcastic tone and an eye roll, Dana throws down a challenge, implying it's much harder than Jake thinks. It's like Dana daring Jake to put his millions where his mouth is and see just how brutal running a fight promotion really is.
He didn't even know half the guys' fucking names on the card. And the list goes on and on with that guy.
Khabib, he retired. Do you think there's ever a chance that Khabib would come back and fight? Is there a number that you can say, Khabib, we got 20 million, we got 25 million?
I threw the numbers at him, trust me.
This isn't just playground banter. It's a clash of two vastly different worlds. On one side, you have Dana White, the mastermind behind UFC's transformation into the gold standard of mixed martial arts, working with legends like Khabib Nurmagomedov, who left the sport undefeated. On the other, there's Jake Paul, whose entire combat sports career is a string of viral marketing stunts against retired, often smaller MMA stars. Jake tries to paint Dana as a greedy tycoon profiting off underpaid athletes' sacrifices. But Dana sees right through the act, calling Jake a self-serving fraud who only pretends to care about fighter welfare when it fits his brand.
He's making money. If you can...
You making real money, Dana, or are you making...
I don't know. That I don't know. I don't know what he's really making.
Let's talk about Jake's so-called crusade for fighter pay. It gets even funnier when you look at his own fight lineup. He's made millions boxing against guys like Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren, fighters who are retired, past their prime, and much smaller than Jake. Yet, Jake keeps bragging about his earnings as if he's some champion of justice. Dana finds it laughable, and honestly, it does come off as hypocritical. If Jake truly wanted to make a real difference, he'd probably be doing more than just talking about it.
And was also considered a boxer, and he lost. So if you can keep fighting fucking 50-something-year-olds...
You don't think Tyson has a chance?
And making a living at it. I think that Mike Tyson has a puncher's chance against anybody.
Now with the added spectacle of Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, things get even messier. Tyson is a living legend, no doubt, but he's also pushing 60. The man who once knocked opponents senseless in seconds isn't the same unstoppable force he used to be. Yet here he is, set to face off against Jake, who's 3 decades younger. The age gap is almost insulting, and critics like Bernard Hopkins aren't shy about calling it out. Hopkins, a master of longevity in boxing, says Jake and Tyson shouldn't even be in the same conversation, let alone a fight.
Hey, guys that box for a living and guys that are your age. How about that?
He says he wants to fight Canelo. I'm just saying what he... That's what he...
hear you. Then why is he not fighting Canelo?
Canelo, I don't think Canelo wants to waste his time.
Yeah.
Let's be real, despite all the criticism, people can't resist the spectacle. It's like watching a train wreck that you can't look away from. The thought of a 58-year-old Mike Tyson landing one of his legendary punches on Jake Paul's face is pure viral gold. Former UFC fighter Brendan Shaw breaks down the possibilities. If Jake knocks out Tyson, everyone's going to call him a bully for beating up an old man. If Tyson knocks out Jake, it's game over for Jake's boxing credibility. The worst-case scenario? A boring decision win that leaves everyone, including Netflix, wishing they'd invested their money elsewhere. Jake's preparation is making waves too. He's packed on muscle, moved up to heavyweight, and is trying to look like a serious contender. But critics, led by Dana White, aren't impressed. Dana thinks Jake's entire game is rigged, always fighting retired or undersized opponents. Even with all his muscle gains and Instagram-worthy workouts, people are still wondering if Jake can actually handle Tyson, even an older version. Is this all just another chapter in Jake's endless campaign to stay relevant and keep the cash flowing? At the end of the day, this fight isn't just about punches. It's a battle over what it means to truly respect the sport. Jake Paul's trying to position himself as a crusader for fighter rights, but his actions tell a different story. Dana White isn't letting it slide, pointing out every contradiction and exposing Jake as a guy who cares more about his brand than the sport he claims to defend. This saga isn't just a fight. It's a war of words, egos, and reputations.